You're walking home alone at night. The street is empty. Nothing is wrong. And yet, somewhere between one streetlight and the next, the hair on your arm stands up. You glance over your shoulder. Nobody's there. So why did your body just prepare you to run? The honest answer is stranger than you think. Because that flicker of fear wasn't really about tonight. It was about something that happened to your ancestors hundreds of thousands of years ago, and your brain never got the memo that it's over. You like to think of yourself as a modern creature. You drive cars. You check the news. You worry about deadlines, not predators. But underneath all of that, you're carrying around a nervous system built for a much older, much more dangerous world. A world where the dark wasn't just inconvenient. It was lethal. For most of human history, danger came from teeth and claws, lions, hyenas, leopards that could climb the very trees your ancestors slept in. Anthropologists estimate that early hominins faced predation pressure for millions of years before anything resembling a city existed. That pressure didn't just shape what your ancestors did during the day. It shaped what their brains did when the sun went down. Here's the strange part. You don't have to have ever seen a lion to be afraid of the dark. You don't have to be taught that shadows are dangerous. Babies show a measurable startle response to sudden darkness and loud noises long before they can speak. Researcher Karen Wynn, who studies infant cognition at Yale, has shown that very young children already carry biases that look like survival instincts, not learned behavior. That's not nurture. That's something older, written in before experience even begins. So what is actually happening in your skull when you feel that creeping sense of being watched? It starts in a small, almond-shaped cluster of neurons called the amygdala. Think of it as your brain's smoke detector. It doesn't wait for proof of fire. It reacts to smoke, to shadow, to the mere possibility of danger, because in the world it evolved for, waiting for certainty could get you killed. The amygdala fires first and asks questions later. By the time your slower, more rational prefrontal cortex catches up and says, "It's just a tree branch," your heart is already pounding. This is called threat detection bias, and it isn't a flaw. It's a feature. A 2007 study by neuroscientist Joseph Ledoux helped map exactly how fear signals can bypass conscious thought entirely, racing through a shortcut in the brain sometimes called the low road. Your body can begin reacting to danger before you've even consciously recognized what you're looking at. Imagine two early humans on the savannah. One hears a rustle in the grass and immediately tenses, ready to flee. The other pauses to calmly analyze the sound first. Which one is more likely to have survived long enough to pass on their genes? You already know the answer. You are descended from the nervous, twitchy one, not the calm one. That single fact rewires how you should think about your own anxiety. Evolution doesn't reward accuracy. It rewards survival. A smoke detector that goes off 100 times for no reason is still doing its job if it catches the one real fire. Your fear response is the same. It would rather embarrass you 99 times with a false alarm than fail you once when something is actually stalking you. This is why you can know, intellectually, that there's nothing in the dark hallway and still feel your pulse spike anyway. Logic lives in a newer part of your brain. Fear lives in a much older one, and the older one usually wins the first round. There's a name for this mismatch. Researchers call it an evolutionary mismatch. When a trait that once kept you alive shows up in a modern environment it was never designed for. Your fear of the dark made perfect sense when leopards hunted at night, and there was no electricity to push the shadows back. Today, your dark hallway is rarely hiding anything more dangerous than a cat. But your amygdala doesn't know that. It's still running ancient software on modern hardware. This isn't only about literal darkness either. The same circuitry that once watched for movement in tall grass now watches for movement in your social world. Psychologist John Cacioppo spent years studying loneliness and found that social threat activates many of the same neural alarm systems as physical danger. Being excluded, ignored, or judged by a group doesn't just hurt your feelings. To your ancient brain, being cast out of the group was, quite literally, a death sentence. Alone, without the protection of others, an early human's odds against a predator dropped sharply. So your brain treats social rejection with the same urgency it once reserved for claws and fangs. That sting you feel when someone doesn't text back? That's not weakness. That's a million years of group survival wiring firing exactly as designed. So why doesn't this fear ever seem to fade, even in a world that's statistically safer than it has ever been? Because the amygdala doesn't update its threat models the way your conscious mind does. You can read every statistic about how safe your neighborhood is. You can know, factually, that violent crime has dropped for decades in most developed countries. None of that fully convinces the part of your brain that lights up at a sudden noise in the dark. It wasn't built to read statistics. It was built to keep one specific ancestor alive long enough to have children, and it has been doing exactly that job, unmodified, for longer than language has existed. Here's the twist that changes how you should see your own anxiety. You don't have a broken nervous system. You have an ancient one, operating in a brand new environment. The same circuitry that makes you flinch at a shadow is the circuitry that helped your ancestors notice the predator before it noticed them. Every person alive today is, by definition, descended from an unbroken line of individuals who were cautious enough, jumpy enough, paranoid enough, to survive long enough to reproduce. Calm, careless ancestors don't get represented in the gene pool. You are the biological inheritance of fear that worked. This reframes something most people get wrong about anxiety. You tend to treat your fear response as a personal failing, a glitch you should be able to think your way out of. But evolutionary psychologist Randolph Nessa has argued that many anxiety responses aren't malfunctions at all. They're the smoke detector doing exactly what natural selection built it to do, just in a building that no longer has many fires. Knowing this won't make the fear disappear. Your amygdala isn't going to read this script and stand down. But it might change how you relate to that flicker of unease the next time you're walking alone at night, or waiting for a reply that doesn't come, or lying awake convinced something is wrong, even when nothing is. That feeling isn't proof that something is broken in you. It's proof that something very old in you is still doing its job. So tonight, when you walk through your own front door and instinctively glance behind you one more time before locking it, notice it. Don't fight it. That tiny, irrational flicker of vigilance is older than your house, older than your city, older than language itself. It traveled across hundreds of thousands of years, through ice ages and migrations and entire extinct species of human relatives, just to arrive in you, fully intact, on an ordinary night when nothing is wrong at all. And maybe that's the real answer. The dark was never actually empty. It was full of a presence that left long ago, and the only thing still standing guard against it is you.